Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Gator Wesley Bio. Today on the show we have Erin Wagner. Thanks for coming.
Hey, JC.
Alright, so let's go ahead and start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name's Erin. I'm a second-year student at the University of Florida. I'm a visual arts studies major, double majoring in psychology as well, and after this semester is over, I can declare my minor in family, youth, and community sciences, so I'm really excited about that. I want to be an art therapist, and that's something I got to work on a lot this summer when I interned at Branches United Methodist Church under Pastor Audrey Warren and their director Kim Torres, which was a really great experience.
So where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Louisiana. I was born on the west bank of New Orleans, and so was my brother and my sister, and we lived there until I was 11, which was a year after Hurricane Katrina. My family and I moved from Louisiana to Florida in July of 2006, and then once we got here, we kind of moved around a lot. We lived in a lot of different places, but we settled down in Orange City in DeLand, Florida, in that area, and my brother and I started school. I started 6th grade and he started 5th grade, and we've lived in the same place ever since.
Do you remember much about living in Louisiana?
Yeah, I mean, I was there until I was 11, so a lot of those years, my childhood years, were spent in Louisiana, and there are definitely things that I still remember. And my mom is from Louisiana also, and she's lived there almost her entire life until we moved to Florida. She lived in Louisiana, so she has a lot of that culture embedded in her as well. So the food we eat and the way we celebrate things and the way we treat people, our type of hospitality is lived in Louisiana, even though our family's a little displaced.
And you said you moved to DeLand, Florida, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell a little bit about that and where that is for some of our viewers who may or may not know?
Sure. DeLand, Florida is about 30 minutes inward from Daytona Beach and about 45 minutes north of Orlando. It's a little bitty town that's still a little historically minded. It's very much a town where everyone knows everyone since DeLand was created. So grandparents and great-grandparents are still in the city. My high school had about 2,500 people, which is pretty big for the size of the town, I think. And I loved being there because our small hometown DeLand, the whole city was a fan of the high school and supported us. And almost all downtown activities were created around supporting the high school or supporting Stetson University, which is also in DeLand. So I got to spend a lot of time in a collegiate atmosphere without being in college yet. And Orange City is a smaller town right next to DeLand. That's just less well known and like the little brother of DeLand. So that's where my biological parents live. In Orange City, and then the family that I live with now lives in DeLand Springs, which is a little bit north of DeLand, and that's mostly farmland. They actually own a farm called Volasal Farms, and they mainly pack and ship citrus, but since the citrus business is failing because of diseases among the trees, they are starting a lot more varied things that they grow, and like more events on the farm and more things to attract people to farm life.
So you mentioned that you moved when you were young with your family to Florida. Can you explain a little bit about your family as well, or the family dynamic?
Sure. I'm not really sure where to start. My parents haven't always made the best choices in their lives, so our circumstances for moving weren't the brightest. First of all, Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, and right where I lived, actually. So we were displaced for over a month. We were in Baton Rouge staying with my dad's sister. And when we came back to almost nothing. So we spent from October of 2005 until July of 2006 kind of moving transiently, living in different places. We lived in a hotel for a little while. We lived in a trailer that only had 3 out of 4 walls. We lived in a tent in the front yard of the trailer when the electricity and the water was turned off. And the last place we were before we left to go to Florida was the kitchen floor of a house my dad was renovating because he did construction, which happened to be like a pretty lucrative business after everyone's homes get destroyed. So we were just like living illegally in the house that my dad was renovating. And then he woke us up at 4 in the morning and said we're gonna go on vacation, and then we just drove to Florida and did not go back. And I think you asked about family dynamics. I don't really talk about my parents that much, and there's a reason, and it's okay. They make their own choices, and I'm still very much their daughter, and I love them a lot, but I can't do anything to change them, and the choices they made, as awful as some of them were, are obvious steps to me getting to where I am today. This is the case for everyone. Without your past, you wouldn't be the person you are. So as much as I wish it was different, I'm also thankful for the way things turned out.
So do you have any brothers or sisters or any kind of extended family or anything of that nature? Or
Yeah, I have an older sister. Her name's Tori. She's 6 years older than me. But when she was 17, she was kicked out of our house. So when I was 11, she might have been younger then. I might have been 10 and she might have been 16, but my dad kicked her out of our house. I was too young to even know the reason, and it was never explained to me, so I'm not sure why. But we have different moms, so she went and lived with her mother and her mom's fiance or boyfriend, what have you. Now she still lives in Louisiana. She has 2 kids. I've never met them. I actually haven't seen her since she left our house, and I've spoken to her very little. We recently found each other on Facebook, though, which was really exciting because I got to see pictures of her and pictures of her kids, and they all look really great. And I also have a little brother who's less than 2 years younger than me. His name's Bennett, and he just graduated from the boot camp, from Navy boot camp in the Great Lakes, Illinois, and I got to fly up there and see his graduation and spend his Liberty time with him in downtown Chicago and just take him around the city and look at all the buildings and just experience things that neither of us have been able to really do before. And right now he's in San Antonio, Texas for A school, which is where they send you to be trained for whatever job you're doing in the Navy. And he's going to be a hospital corpsman with a dental assistant specialty, which I think is really funny. But he has a very high chances to maintain jobs outside of the military, which is really exciting.
so as you mentioned previously, you did eventually move to DeLand, Florida, and you kind of grew up in DeLand, Florida, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about growing up there while you were there as well?
Sure. The time I spent in DeLand was middle and high school years, so that's really when you start to develop your own sense of self and your own personality beyond what your parents tell you to do. So I'm really thankful that I got to do it here under the circumstances that I did. I went to DeLand Middle School for the first 2 years, where I met all my friends that I'm still friends with, where I had some really great teachers that impressed upon me a lot. Something that's really important in my life is school. So ever since, probably starting around middle school, school became very important to me, and because my parents weren't always the best role models, I really looked to teachers for that. So teachers became both teachers and parental figures in a lot of ways throughout almost my entire schooling career. So I have very high esteem for them and the jobs they do. And that probably started in 6th grade when I first came here. And 6th grade is rough for everyone because you're coming to middle school for the first time. It was my first time in a public school because Louisiana is mostly private education. I went to a Catholic school there. So that was different. Being in a new place was different, making new friends, figuring out how to get to classes. That was just really overwhelming. But in 6th grade, I met my best friend, now still, Courtney Crump, and she invited me to come to her youth group with her. And so I did, and I kept going. And then her mom invited me to church on Sunday, and her family began to take my brother and I to church every Sunday. And that was the community that I really grew up in, that really fostered me and my own personality and found my strengths and talents and supported my weaknesses even. And that church became my family, and that's where I grew up. I think I spent more hours in the school or at church than I ever did at home.
So what would you have to say would be the most pivotal moments in growing up?
The most pivotal moments probably came late middle school or early high school, where I began to really take my faith seriously. I never had a very stark come to Jesus moment or a fall on your knees and be saved moment. I'm very blessed in that I've known for a long time that Jesus is with me, that he loves me, and I've known his presence for a while, basically ever since I can even remember. But when I started, like I said earlier, you come to be your own person in middle school, and I could really start to take my faith seriously and personally, and understand what faith meant, especially in my life where almost nothing was certain, where some nights I didn't know where my parents were, or some days I didn't know what we would pack for lunch, but I always had church, and I always had my friends there, and I always had my Bible with me, and that's when I started to really build what type of person I wanted to become, because I knew exactly what I didn't want, but to have a faith that told me what I should want or what a good person looked like, that began in around 8th grade and 9th grade.
So other than church and youth, were you involved in any other extracurricular activities with school?
Absolutely. School and being at school, anything to do with school was my outlet or my way out of anything really, any thing I took. So by senior year, I was group commander of ROTC, I was Miss DeLand High School, I was president of the National Art Honor Society, I was also president of IB Club at my school, I was vice president of National Honor Society, and I was on the ROTC Color Guard, and I think that's it. That's a lot though. So I did basically anything and everything to stay at school, and I worked really hard, and I knew that excelling in school and excelling in leadership was something that would help me in the future as well. So not only did I just enjoy it, I knew that it would help me to do better things when I got to college. And besides having it look good on a resume, I really did learn a lot. From ROTC, for example, I was group commander, so I was often in charge of 150 people. I knew how to walk in heels expertly from uniform days. I knew how to raise my voice when I had to, but also I knew when I told my entire unit to drop down and do push-ups that I was going to do it with them. So I just learned a lot about leadership and what it took to be a leader, especially through ROTC, but through a lot of other things I did also.
So going out of that, you said it helped you get prepared for college as well. So what made you decide to choose the University of Florida?
I actually didn't want to go to UF. I only applied to 4 colleges. I applied to Duke University, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, USF, and then UF also. My first choice was Duke. I've wanted to go to Duke since probably before the dawn of time, I think. And I worked really hard in high school. I think I ended 4th in my class, and then I had all of that other leadership experience, and I'm an excellent writer, so my essays were on point. But I didn't get into Duke still. And it was really disappointing, and I cried a lot, and I knew that if I wasn't going to Duke, I was going to UF. So it was more of like an accept your fate kind of decision coming to UF, and so I was pretty resentful of it at first. But I love it here now. I've really found a home in the orange and blue. I go to football games. I'm at Gator Wesley all the time. I've made really great friends. I couldn't imagine college any other way than what I'm doing it right now.
So what have you decided to do here at the University of Florida?
Once I got to UF, a little backstory. The summer before I came to UF, I was a camp counselor at Warren Willis, and that summer and a bit of the spring before I graduated, I had a really hard time with anxiety and panic attacks, and that carried itself into my first semester of freshman year. So didn't really do anything immediately when I came to college. I came to Wesley because I thought I had to, because it was the United Methodist organization on campus, and I knew some people because we were camp counselors together. So I thought, if I'm going to have friends anywhere, it's going to be at Wesley. So I started coming, and really it was just kind of a presence here. Like, I just came because I thought I had to or I wanted to, but I made friends, and realized quickly that people actually care about you here, which was super important to me, especially coming out of that fog of anxiety and depression and just the worst way I've ever felt. But once I started hauling myself out of that, I gradually became more and more involved with Wesley. I think the turning point with that was the spring break mission trip that we took to North Carolina. That was, even though I knew everyone that went and I was friends with everyone, I didn't really know everyone that went, and we weren't really friends. But being there with them, with one purpose and one body, working and serving, that was something that really changed my relationship with a lot of people at Wesley, and I'm so thankful for that trip. It was a lot of fun, and we just got to know each other really well. Another thing that I do on campus, basically my time is divided among 2 different organizations, and it's Gator Wesley and the Pride Student Union. And in PSU, I'm on the Extended E Board. I'm the leadership director of the mentor program that Pride runs. So that's really exciting and really time consuming, but so worth it to be able to make new students at UF or transfer students at UF feel more at home and a part of a bigger community, and that's why I do it. And so this art and psychology degree I hope to use to become an art therapist and hopefully work in a nonprofit setting or even in a church setting, much like what I did at Branches this summer.
And you also mentioned you're part of the Gator Wesley Foundation, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, and also how you got involved and how you are involved?
Sure. Well, Gator Wesley is the United Methodist Campus Ministry, and I heard of it because I worked at camp with a bunch of other college kids who were a part of Gator Wesley, and it was really just a furthering of the community that I really sought out in middle and high school, and this is just another environment in which a lot of people who really love Jesus and really love each other can come together as one body, and that's really what we are. And here at Gator Wesley, I've really found a home and a family and people that really care about me and care about the community and the world, and I've also found just a place to be myself, really. So here at Gator Wesley, I am the worship coordinator this year, and I'm also the encouragement coordinator. Both both things which I'm exceptionally passionate about. And so in worship especially, I've been able to combine arts and worship and prayer and visual art, which is just right up my alley, exactly what I want to do with my life. And as encouragement coordinator, I also have an excuse to creepily know everyone's schedules and wish them luck on exam days and make little birthday cards, which is something I also really love doing. So my jobs that I have just really allow me to be a better part of the foundation and just really love others. So I have an excuse to be weird about it even. But for other people, I'm sure the answer is different. I'm sure any faith group is different for every person, but that's what it is to me.
So as you've gotten involved with Gator Wesley, where do you see it going in the future?
Where do I see Gator Wesley going?
Yes.
I hope that Gator Wesley can expand itself beyond the walls. I think we're doing a lot better of a job at it this year than it was even last year. Because like I mentioned last year, I just came to Gator Wesley because I felt I had to, not because at first I particularly felt drawn. But this year, I think we collectively are doing a much better job at just loving other people and making them feel welcome. And I think that's the first step in the right direction that we're taking. And I'm really proud of the job that everyone is doing here. So just being a more welcoming environment and organization from the start is where I want Gator Wesley to go. And I also hope to see it move into places that make everyone a little uncomfortable, which we're also starting to do with sexual assault prevention, which was kind of our initiative, I guess, for the fall. But I hope to see it more involved with the real issues that college students face, and I also think that we're already doing a really good job at it.
All right, well, we're getting to the end of our show, and I want to thank you again for coming on the show.
Anytime.
And this has been the Gator Wesley Bios, produced by James Jordan and produced on location at the Gator Wesley Foundation, which is a campus ministry of the United Methodist Church that services the University of Florida and Santa Fe College. Tune in next time when we have more stories, more people, and more Gator Wesley Bios. Thank you, and good day.